Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Joy Doreen Bira, and today our major focus is on the South Sudan humanitarian crisis. But before that, Senegalese musician Youssou has joined the commitment to bring peace to Central African Republic. Plus, all week, the online conversation has been dominated by South Sudan. This and more on Web City. Central African Republic descended into chaos 10 months ago after rebels overthrew the government, sparking violence between the Christian majority and Muslim minority that has uprooted 1 million people out of a population of 4.6 million.
Regarde son esprit vaillant, habiter les yeux de chaque enfant.
Now, Senegalese music icon Youssou will tomorrow record a song dedicated to peace in Central African Republic with a singer from the country which has been torn apart by inter-religious violence. Ndo, a Muslim, will collaborate with Central African singer Lady Natasha, who goes by the stage name Lady Mamba and is a Christian. Ndo decided to associate the voice of a Christian from the Central African Republic with his to encourage strong international solidarity to restore a definitive peace to the country. Africa's leaders met on Friday for the final day of a summit dominated by conflict in South Sudan and the Central African Republic, with the continental bloc drumming up support for a peacekeeping mission on the ground. Officially focused on agriculture and food security, the 54-member continental bloc has spent much of the time bogged down, yet again trying to resolve conflict in member states. Ethiopian Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn at the summit's opening on Thursday called for urgent solutions to rescue these two sisterly countries from falling into the abyss.
I am nevertheless deeply concerned by the emergence of new conflicts, which, if not addressed urgently, will have a potential to seriously threaten our collective peace and security and undermine the gains that we have made in recent years. I am referring here to the unfolding situation in South Sudan and Central African Republic. We need to find urgent solutions to rescue these two sisterly countries.
And well, like I mentioned, that is going to be our major focus this afternoon on Africa Speaks platform. But let's take a look at Click today that shares the innocence of the African child. It's not many times that they actually understand the messages inscribed on the clothes that they wear. Take a look. On Click, a little boy wearing a t-shirt with the inscription, "I can be president." These are some of the dreams of the African children. Well, despite two negotiating teams signing a ceasefire agreement, South Sudanese continue to flee the country to neighboring Kenya and Uganda, and the numbers are rising as refugees seek water, food and shelter. Now, that's our major focus this afternoon on the platform. Let's take a look at this story and see how dire the humanitarian crisis is turning out to be. At Kakuma refugee camp, more children, women and men in tents have added to the numbers crossing the border from South Sudan into Kenya through Turkana. The influx of refugees into Kenya comes days after South Sudan's two negotiating teams agreed to a ceasefire. While a ceasefire is yet to be realized, refuge, water, food and access to medical attention are some of the immediate needs of the families fleeing the conflict.
It's for the leadership in South Sudan, be that leadership at a community level, at a regional level, at a national level, to recognize that the future of South Sudan rests on the people of South Sudan being able to work together.
Since the conflict began on 15th of December 2013, 500,000 people have fled their homes, families separated amid the continued fighting, making it difficult for relief aid organizations to reach the refugees. Malakal, Bentiu, Bor, Jonglei and parts of Juba are the most affected states in the South Sudan conflict.
I saw people in dire circumstances, short of food, living in conditions with poor sanitation and very little water. Children are not in schools and health needs continue to rise.
Children's education has been halted and their health is put at risk with increased congestion in the refugee camps in Kakuma. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees says if reconciliation does not begin now, the overcrowding could see the outbreak of diseases like measles and cholera as the rainy season is fast approaching. Now, since the 15th of December 2013, we've seen a lot of conflict and, of course, the consequences of the conflict can be seen in the dire humanitarian crisis. The World Food Programme reports that its warehouses in Malakal have been almost entirely emptied by repeated incidents of looting. Across the country, the program has lost about 4,000 metric tons of food from its warehouses, enough food to feed more than 240,000 people for about a month. And of course, in a recent situation report as well, the International Organization for Migration reports that its staff recently conducted an assessment mission to the warehouses in Malakal town and found that their facilities had been looted and destroyed as well. An international medical aid organization, Doctors Without Borders, was forced to suspend its activities in Malakal after its compound was looted twice in one day. And that is how dire this situation is. Now, joining me right now via Skype in studio is Obang Metho, who is the Executive Director for Solidarity Movement. He is based in Canada. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And I would like to get straight to it. The humanitarian crisis is actually one that one would say this is an emergency. But do you think that after a ceasefire agreement, we should see more people fleeing the country than they should be going back?
Thank you, Joy, really for giving me this opportunity to speak about these issues. It's really, this is the one, as you put it very well, that Africa speaks. And really when we speak, are we speaking the language of hope? Are we speaking the language of peace? And I think that this is the problem, that what's going on now, as you said, in Sudan, when ceasefire was spoken, should it be a sign that people are going to hope? But the reason now why you find people going to Kenya, going to Ethiopia, going to Uganda, every country, that's a sign that this ceasefire is just really an agreement on paper, but it's nothing on the ground. Right? And then humanitarian crisis is, I think that is something which is, it was not handled properly. It's also is not right as well as we speak, because I think that if we read it from the head that the food was loose. And you know what, this is not protected by government or UN or by the people. So I think that file agreements, there's no teeth to it other than a bit paper. And also, if you've seen it, that there's so many factions in there. It's not only between the government and what you call the rebels. I think that both, there are other people who also that really not around on these tables, who this ceasefire doesn't apply to them. And unless there is really some kind of cohesion, like a real work by everybody that's showing that, the well-being of all the Southern Sudanese is together, I think that this ceasefire will not really carry any.
But we're looking at a country, South Sudan, that just, is about 2 years old, if we could say. And the fact that we're looking at a very young country going back to what it was going through, before it seceded from Northern Sudan, I think this is more like repeating history in a more negative way, especially when you look at the number of refugees who are fleeing the country.
Oh, absolutely, definitely. For instance, for those people who don't know, and I'm an Ethiopian from Gambela region, the southwest of Ethiopia. And when I was a child, I seen the Southern Sudan is in early 80s coming, South Sudan to Ethiopia. And this is what's happening now. And really, I think if you look back now, what the Southern Sudan is for this, of course not. And I think that when we believe, where the problem, where the solution comes from, I think that is the people of the South Sudan themselves. I think that, speaking as, and someone who's an outsider, I think that both of these leaders need to help be held accountable. In a way, when you look at it, IGAD who's trying to solve this problem. Mm-hmm. So Ethiopia and Uganda and Kenya and other neighboring countries, as you say, this is a new country. Who are the role models of Salva Kiir, Museveni? How long Museveni been in power? And within his own country, in Ethiopia, for example, in my own countries, where these people are. All of these are the men who used to be the Riek Machar of South Sudan today. Museveni was in the bush, the Ethiopian authority was in the bush, and other countries. So for that matter, I think that these being a young countries, the people of the country, I think they fail to see that they are really there for the people, not for the power. And I think this is really possible.
All right, let's talk about the forces that are in South Sudan. We're seeing Uganda's UPDF soldiers in South Sudan, and one of the issues that Riek Machar did have with the Ugandan forces in South Sudan is that they seem to be taking over what we could call part of the power struggle that is going on in South Sudan. At the end of the day, do you think it was a good idea for the UPDF to be in South Sudan?
Absolutely, it's not a good idea. I think that they're feeling that, really they're putting more fuel in the fire. And for that matter, that, Uganda is part of the IGAD. If they were there to negotiate and become a neutrals, why would they really want to send the troops there? That's why I say that, in the South Sudan, it become really a battleground. So, all of the stakeholders who are really already took a side. Let's go, for example, Ethiopia. Ethiopia was the one that would train the security in Southern Sudan. Ethiopia is the one that set up the telecommunication. Ethiopia is the one that really maintained the South Sudan in many things. Would we say that the Ethiopian government will be neutral? Of course not. And then, would we say that, Museveni was neutral? Of course not. So I'm not saying that, for me, Riek Machar definitely, like he's indicated dictators. Salva Kiir is, maybe an indicated dictator. These two men, I think that they are really the one who brought this problem. But right now, there's this, saying that when two elephants fight, it is the grass that pays the price. Right now, the grass are the people of South Sudan. But what really made me more is that I think Uganda should pull out their troops from the area, and also that the Southern Sudanese, I think these shortcuts of trying to find a peace by really sharing power, these two men are, they feel they're people and they're not legitimate to lead the country in a way, because these are the one now that are really fighting Salva Kiir. Riek Machar say, Salva Kiir say, I have the government and I'm in charge, just like the way Umar al-Bashir used to say to him. And then Riek Machar say that, I am pretty much like the way Jordan used to be. I think both of them looking at it that, Bashir is guilty of, for power struggle. And then Kiir also is guilty of trying to act and say that there's a coup when there's not a coup at all.
Right. Well, Metho, let's bring in the issue of the 11 detainees who were actually brought to Kenya, to be precise. Do you think that their release is going to change anything at all in South Sudan, knowing that we're seeing people continuing to flee the country, despite the fact that there's been some sort of, green light that has been given with the release of the 11 detainees?
I think the release is a positive in a way, that because these, keeping in mind, Joy, these are the people that we used to fought together, who used to be in the same SPLA together. So really, for me, as what I was saying before, that what the authority in South Sudan should have done is really to release all of these people, because there's no coup. This is a guy that really afraid that someone will take power from them, and so they should have released all of these people and make these people become part of the solution to find a way to bring the peace to the country, or to bring a real tangible ceasefire to the country. So releasing this is a positive, but again, that's really not main solution. The main solution of the Southern Sudan, the way I look at it, it has to be a meaningful, inclusive, dialogue among the people, and also that the South Sudan being one of those countries that a Christian country, and a Christian, what they should be doing is just to really grassroots. One thing I find is where is the people of Southern Sudan? Right now it become like a Denka bus north. Where is the other one? There's over 26 different ethnic groups. Why are these people are not speaking up? So I think the releasing of these people is crucial. But one thing I think that the authority in South Sudan should not miss is to act as if they are in control. They are not. As long as they are really trying to be a one ethnic group, controlling, saying we are in power, it's not going to work. And this is one thing that which is the dangerous. For me, as someone who's working for social justice in Ethiopia, Ethiopia is trying to bring a peace to South Sudan. But again, Ethiopia is one of the countries that based on ethnicity, where the constitution of the country says people, we, nation, and nationality. And if you look in Uganda, for instance, that, things are not that great in that country, for that matter. So I think releasing these people are positive, but there's more work that need to be done. More work even among the people of Southern Sudan in Juba, for that matter, to really make these people accountable. These two men cannot share the power. These two men have failed to lead their country, Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. And also then, Salva Kiir should not run the SPLA as if they were in the bush anymore. They are not rebels, trying to capture the country. They already
all right, Metho. Now let's bring in the aspect of what is happening in the refugee camps. We're looking at, besides the fact that there's a situation of overcrowding or congestion in these refugee camps in Uganda as well as in Kenya, that is in northern Turkana. Do you think the separation of refugees in these camps in South Sudan is a good idea? How bad can it get if refugees of different ethnicities are separated in a refugee camp?
Absolutely, it's not right. It's not a good thing to do, especially when I show that sign. It just really is disturbing to say that, the Denka on the left and the Boris on the right. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it is the conflicts that divide it. But they are people who are intermarried. They live together for a long time. And first of all, they are focusing on what different than what unified them. And meaning that, these Southern Sudanese, they are Southern Sudanese first, but these ideas, and also that they're human. So if the UN putting them in a compound, I am sure the UN should be able to have security to really make sure that these people are there. UN should, compound should be the place where to be safe, rather than putting them, one. For how long are they going to do that? And that's why I say that this is the failure of the elite who try to use their ethnicity. And just again, look at it. What happened? Where this ethnicity went wrong. Let's go to Rwanda. In your own country, when there was an election. And Ethiopia is one of those countries that time bomb. People did not know that. In Ethiopia, we have a country who's, like almost 5% of the population, ethnic group, are controlling the country. So, and now they're trying to bring these people. So that's why we are trying to say that, look, the only way that the problem can be solved, not only in the South Sudan, even in Ethiopia, it is to create a society where our humanity comes before ethnicity, and also that a society that where, unless every tribe is free, none of us will never be free. I think the people of Southern Sudan has to see it that way. When the UN put those signs, I think those signs should be thrown away, and these people are in the UN compound. For God's sake, that should be the place where they should feel safe, rather than being a place that where they will go where the ethnicity is. And first of all, these are the people who are from the same country. These are the people who suffer the same cycle for the many years. So I think that idea of isolating, this is exactly the way the media portrayed it. This is exactly how the both men, Salva Kiir and Riek Machar, is doing it. So dictator is a dictator, doesn't matter. Riek Machar is a dictator. Salva Kiir is a dictator. So you cannot say.
Well, just hold your thought right there. Let's just try to take a look at some of the responses that are coming through the hashtag South Sudan crisis. We're having Ahmed Musa, who is saying, Ethiopia is standing beside the stability, but we principally reject world's enduring dictators. And we also have SVETS M1, who is saying the leadership of South Sudan should consider development of South Sudan rather than who has more power and control. And we also have Ngugi wa Muthoni, who is saying, is it a case of South Sudan being used as a battleground at the mercies of the locals? And we also have one that's coming in here from Bena Omesh. Well, Bena Omesh, who is saying, okay, I guess this is something to do with the show. But then we have Nonconformist, who is saying Africa Speaks on Matters South Africa is such a good show. But when you look at more of the tweets that are coming through, people seem to be having the state of mind that, what's happening in South Sudan could be instigated by international forces. Do you think the same, Metho, that international forces could be playing part in what's happening in South Sudan?
Definitely, usually I use this where I say that, where there's oil, discovering a oil in your land is like discovering a tumor in your brain. This is oil is in South Sudan. Because there's oil, there's many players who are making this. South Sudan has become the battleground. So it's, like as I always say that, Africa has become like a dead carcass. A dead carcass, anyone can come, anything that eat meat can come take it. So the same thing that's happening now, the South Sudan, because it's the country where there's no, institution at all. So if you look at it, Joy, for example, when there was a dialogue in South Sudan, and the South Sudan ceasefire in Addis Ababa, the Chinese was there. One was Chinese there, he said that he was there representing himself. But again, the Chinese really, they have invested $1 billion in South Sudan because of the oil. For the same matter that Museveni is there, for the same matter that Ethiopia is there. Then why I said there's no neutral group there who are really trying to really go there for the interest of the people of Southern Sudan. And then why I say that the people of Southern Sudan have to think and reflect and say that it is at the end of the day, it is about themselves. It is them who can free themselves. It's them who can find a way for themselves, and then other people can support it. Because if we live in a world there where, there's people who are ready to exploit you if you allow yourself to do that. So in this case, I agree with the viewer that the South Sudanese, peoples are trying to, scumbling what they have. But there's so many, external forces who are trying to do this. But again, it is sometimes, the intruder cannot come to your house, unless you open the doors or, you allow them to come in. So I think in this case, the authority in South Sudan, they're failure to really lead their people and try to bring the development that the gentleman said before in the text. So they should have been putting the interests of their people first, rather than putting the interests of their political power or their own ethnicity. And I think this is really, as long as they do this, you can have an outsider come and exploit it, thinking that they are there for the people of the South Sudan, but of course they are not.
Right. And now that you put it that way, some international organizations, in fact, relief organizations, are finding it difficult to even get into some of these areas where they are meant to, supply some of the relief food, water, food and some other materials. But at the end of the day, how best can this situation be managed?
Yeah, I think the best to do that is really, again, go back to the people of South Sudan. The people of South Sudan, especially the civil society, is not there. There's no institution in this country. And so what it needs to be done is, I think, to look at it in a way that, what these people, whether they are that tribe or that tribe, or whether they are on the side of the rebels or the government, all of those people, they need food like everybody else. So we are not dealing with South Sudan here alone, where there's rebels. Even in Nuba Mountain, there's a problem. There's many problems in other part of the Sudan. And keep in mind, if it is not handled properly, now we are seeing that, we have people intercrossing. For instance, in the Gambela region where I come from, in Ethiopia, more than 400 people were killed many times. We have Ethiopian from the Gambela region who are in Southern Sudan in Juba. And we have in Southern Sudan going to Ethiopia. And then we have some Sudanese going to Sudan, coming to South Sudan before. And now South Sudanese may go to Uganda, as you said, coming to Kenya. So unless it's handled properly, this problem will continue. And how to do it, I think that these aid organizations should really try to make the ruling government in South Sudan, in Salva Kiir, accountable to say that, look, the people, these groups should go and get access to wherever the people are, and also that the rebels should do that, but not making it that because those rebels will use the food or the government will use that authority. At the end of the day, they're really killing their own people, not harming them.
Right. In case you're just joining us, you're watching Africa Speaks on KTN, and we're using the hashtag South Sudan Crisis. And joining me via Skype from Canada is Obang Metho, who is the Executive Director for Solidarity Movement, and that is a non-violent social justice movement of diverse people that advocates for freedom, justice, good governance, and upholding the civil, human, and economic rights of the people of Ethiopia. Now, when it comes to comparing situations, what's happening in the Central African Republic is almost similar to what's happening in South Sudan. The only difference is that there are power struggles on one side, and on the other hand, we are seeing a religious conflict in the case of Central African Republic, where the Muslims are going against the Christians and the Christians are against the Muslims as well. But let's talk about dealing with our own problems. Do we as Africans deal with our own problems or leave them to the international community or the international, what we'll call the Western countries to solve our own problems?
So I think that if you look at it, you will really put it very well. One of the problems is the problem of Africa is our problem, but we have also an outsider into, and so this is we cannot leave it to the outsiders to really come and resolve. One of the things, if you look at it in Africa, we have been colonized. For many years that we were not allowed to really, educate ourselves and be who we are. And when we are, decolonize Africa, the West from the outside or white. So we are now almost being colonized by Africa. It's a time for African to colonize Africa from Africa. Mm-hmm. And then in order to do that, there's things that we need to do. We cannot wait for the outsider or tell the outsider to come and free us. But we have to find a way to really solve our problem. As you said, look at what's happening in Central Africa. You have the young man killing another one for this religion, which is a difference. So that's why I always say the solution to Africa has to be not from the outside. It has to be organic. Organic is just a way that go back 20 years ago, Africa never killed itself like the way they did in Rwanda, for that matter. So why now, when we say that this is the time, the age of civilization? So we have our difference, but we never really go to this magnitude of real problem. Why? Because we have, as again, say earlier, an outsider hand is in there, but also we as our people fail to do this because we use the tiny little thing that really divided us, then unified us. And that's why I always say that the problem of Africa, even in Central Africa, in Ethiopia, Kenya, we have to look at it in a way that we are people first, humanity before anything else. And then until each one of us have the freedom and justice that we deserve, none of us will never be free. Because if you look at it,
none of us will never be free. Metho.
Mm-hmm.
Metho?
Yes, I am here.
Yes. Just like you put it, this continent is ours, and in a way we have a big role to play in terms of maintaining peace as well amongst ourselves. But I would also like to connect right now to the ambassador, the South Sudan ambassador to Kenya, who just joined us in studio, and he was stuck in traffic for quite some time, but I guess that is an African problem as well. But thank you so much for joining us on the show. And my big question to you is, why do we continue to see South Sudanese fleeing the country, coming to Kenya, going to Uganda and the other neighboring countries after a ceasefire has been signed?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank KTN for this opportunity. Mm-hmm. In fact, there has been massive displacement of internally displaced persons in the country. Also, many people have been fleeing the country to neighboring countries of Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda. Of course, when there is fighting, people become scared. And as you know now, we have over 70,000, the UN camps. Mm-hmm. We have almost 100 or more thousand that have gone to the neighboring countries. This, I think, people were still scared because of fighting that took place. But I believe that the exodus of the people from the country will stop as soon as the ceasefire became effective.
Well, the ceasefire was meant to become effective 24 hours after the agreement was signed. But, it's days after this agreement was signed and we still see people fleeing the country. Do we actually conclude that the ceasefire has not been realized?
Well, from the side of the government, definitely the ceasefire has been effective, and there is no way we have our forces have stopped where they are. They will only fight in self-defense if the other side violated the ceasefire.
How long are we going to see this happening? Because it appears that even after the release of the 11 detainees, we're still seeing some states that are still unstable up until today. So what exactly is the problem?
Well, you know, when there is fighting, you know, this fighting that took place for 3 weeks has been very, very, very bad in the country. There's been destructions in Malakal, in Bentiu, and in Bor. So many people have no homes in the towns. A lot of shops has been destroyed and looted. And therefore, when you don't have a place to live in, many people prefer to leave the country because their houses have been destroyed as a result of fighting by the rebels.
And in any case, we are going to see, you know, a number of people wanting to go back home. But what kind of South Sudan or are they going back to? I know that not all of the 10 states are affected by this conflict, but at least there are people fleeing to these as other states that are not as badly affected as those where the fighting has been ongoing. So are we going to see a situation where people are waiting for years before they can actually return home?
Well, this fighting has, in fact, taken us back, will take us more than 5 years to recover. Yes, as I said, there was internally displaced person that flew into Greater Bahr al-Ghazal and Greater Equatoria. Of course, because the fighting only concentrated in the 3 states of Jonglei, Upper Nile, and Unity. We are very grateful to the people of Greater Bahr al-Ghazal and Greater Equatoria for receiving the civilians that have fled into their own country, to their own state. And I hope that it is a short measure. The people will return home. As you know now, there is no yet mechanism of monitoring and evaluation of the verification of the ceasefire. We are hoping that as soon as the verification mechanism is in place, then people will be stable, as it is stipulating the agreement that there also be going to be free access to humanitarian assistance to the people, irrespective of the area controlled by the government or by the rebel. Well, we are very grateful to our President, General Salva Kiir Mayardit, who has been keeping peace in the country for a long time.
Right.
And that's why now he was able to pardon 7 out of 11 that were under detention.
Right.
After the investigation took place, the president have headed to the IGAD, head of state and government appeal, particularly the president of Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who have now accommodated this group. And I believe this the group that has been released will also be positively contributing to peace in our country.
Great. And well, we were also connecting to Obang Metho, who is in Canada, connecting to us live from Canada via Skype. Metho, as we wind up the show, is there anything you would like to say to Ambassador Majok Gwandong?
Yeah, I think one thing that I would like to say to the ambassadors, the solution of your countries laid more in your hand, the hand of your people, the people of South Sudan, not IGAD. Because, you know, the IGAD are there to harm, but it's the people of South Sudan. And when ceasefire is done, it was between the people of the South Sudan. So as we hereby give some more evidence, I think that, you know, people like and other groups should play a role. South Sudan, you have many peoples who can really capable, but this idea of trying to say that now because the rebel has been crushed, the problem is going to go away, will not go away. And I think people are suffering. I say earlier that this African saying, when 2 elephants fight, it is the grass that pay the price. It's right now between Salva Kiir and Riek Machar. The people of your country are now the grass that have been crushed. And these peoples are not one ethnic group from all other ethnic groups. So I think that instead of really looking more into the, if you guys are being in the bush for over 30 years and sub together, I think that there should be something that you must have in common to try to find a solution through a reconciliation. I've been with the Southern Sudanese Foreign Minister Affairs before the problem happened, and I warned him and I said that it is only through reconciliation and dialogue. If you guys cannot solve the problem, the outsider cannot do it. So my question to you, if I have something to say, just simply is that this idea of trying to finding a way to, for all of you, to find a way to reconcile, even for the people of the Southern Sudan. I think that two men, Salva Kiir and Riek Machar, both of them has failed to lead the country. Is there any way that to create some kind of cohesion and have a neutral leader that can lead your country together, or come up to a way that this problem of two men can be told to squeeze themselves and create an environment where you guys are capable to come up with a leader that can unify people?
Well, thank you so much, Obang. We're out of time right now, and my final question to you, Ambassador, is there any sort of politics at play here that we are seeing this situation being, dragged along for a long time, yet maybe the solution is actually just within the South Sudanese government?
Yeah, well, of course, this is not the first time for us to resolve our internal issues. We have had some problem before during the struggle, but we were able to resolve them by ourselves. I believe that our country will go back. Our president is said that whatever it takes, there must be reconciliation in the country. And I believe that this is going to happen. And I believe everybody in that country is for peace and yearning for peace, because we are a new country and this fighting has brought us back. But we are very optimistic that we are going to reach peace. And I believe that the government will do all the effort it will take for us to reach a peaceful resolution of the conflict in the country.
Great. Well, it was such an honor having you in studio speak to us. Thank you so much for clarifying on the ceasefire agreement situation. And well, we've come to the end of the show. Thanks, Obang Metho, for joining us from Canada to also, expound more on the humanitarian crisis. This conversation continues online, and we just had a short conversation as well with Ambassador Majok Gwandong, who is the South Sudanese ambassador to Kenya. Well, thank you all for joining us on the show, and for those of you who sent in your responses, I cannot go through all of them, but this conversation continues under the hashtag South Sudan Crisis. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Until next Saturday, God bless.